Welcome aboard. I'm your host, Will Morrissey, and this is Nautical Tales and Nature Trails, a look into Connecticut and Rhode Island. Today, I'm going to try to explore the different attractions that are available to everybody. Picture this. My wife, Bridget Morrissey, crisscrosses the Connecticut and Rhode Island and knows all about a whole lot of different things that are going on. She travels all the back roads helping people settle down in the area, and she's come across many gems that I'm sure you'd like to hear about. Our show is a passport to adventure, especially for all the newcomers coming into the area. We have a lot of people coming in to build submarines. We have the brave souls that ride the submarines that are in the subbase. We have students at Mitchell College, Conn College. We've got the Confident Men training over at the United States Coast Guard Academy, and so many more coming into this area. And we just like to let them know what's going on here. There's so many different things. Even the locals and the seasoned visitors are amazed at what is here. They find out all these new things that are going on, whether it's marina, hiking trails, it could be sport fishing, it could be vineyards, it could be galleries, libraries, museums, and so much more. And speaking of libraries and museums, today we're going to travel right up the road. We're here in Groton. We're going to travel right up Route 12 to the Navy subbase right here in Groton, subbase New London. And my guests today are Marguerite Raunch. She's the supervisory librarian at MWR Library, which is Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. And we've got nuclear machinist mate Kevin Willy, who is the director of education at the Submarine Marine Force Museum. And so we're going to travel up the road a little bit. We're going to find out why this area has become one of the top 5 travel destinations in all the United States. So Marguerite, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Will. Glad to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the library and what the library does for the people in the area?
Sure. Well, I've lived in this area for close to 40 years, but I've worked at Subbase for now 9 years, running their library. And it's a library a lot of people don't know about, but it's on Subbase. MWR, as you pointed out, is Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. So that's our primary mission, is to support the sailors and their families and the retirees who live in this area, who were stationed here. And we provide services you would expect from any public library, largely. Additionally, we do have a tickets and travel function, which means that when new families come to our area, we help them familiarize them. And that's why I'm looking forward to having Bridget's book in our collection, because this is a great resource for new families in our area, new sailors, so they can quickly acclimate and learn some of the gems in our area that, and without having to stumble upon them. So that's really the nature of our library, and we've been there a long time. By the way, Subbase is over 100 years old. We celebrated our centenary just a few years ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So, you know, we've been, and actually MWR Libraries, in terms of providing morale support to our families who move somewhat frequently. And so it's important that we have a sort of welcome mat or 411 for information for those families who maybe never lived in New England before. So it's important that we are welcoming to them and help them acclimate, especially their children. MWR Libraries were the very first morale, welfare, recreation service to the Navy community. Other branches came along afterwards, like fitness and a marina, but libraries were the first, I'm proud to say.
Well, how many people do you have come through your operation?
Oh, it's at least 100 a day, I'd say. And during the summer months when the children are out of school, it climbs up to a couple hundred a day. And we provide all the programming you would expect from any of our library peers over the fence line. So everything from baby story times and preschool story times right through to STEM functions and coding clubs, anime for the teens. We really provide it all. I should add that what makes us unique at Subbase also, apart from the fact that we have a submarine station there on the Thames River, is after a sailor goes through sub school or goes through their boot camp, then if they determine and the Navy determines that they qualify for sub school, then they come to Groton. Groton's the only place they come to learn how to drive and operate a submarine properly. So it's really a little bit like a college campus. That's the age group coming to sub school.
Nice.
So it is nice.
Well, that's great. I mean, there's so many different people, and I've got a lot of friends, retired friends, that take advantage of all your services on the sub base. And
Glad to hear
they
it.
talk about it, big time. It's something that they're glad that they have, so.
That's wonderful. I was glad to hear it.
You do a good. Now, I understand you were at St. Michael's before that.
I was, yes. I ran their library. A little plug for St. Michael's School in Pawcatuck.
Yeah,
for 7 years, I ran their
twin grandsons
library.
that went there.
Oh, my son went there too.
They're going to be seniors at Stonington High School this year.
Oh, wonderful.
And I get involved with St. Michael's too as a chaplain of Troop 9.
I'll give one more plug. This is a Navy plug. I started my library work as a professional reference librarian at the Naval War College in Newport, since we're talking about Connecticut and Rhode Island.
Sure.
So I spent 7 years out learning my chops in librarianship at the Naval War College, which is a wonderful place to work.
I imagine it's more than 100 people going through that one today.
Yeah, we were pretty busy. We had to get sharp really quick there to serve.
Well, speaking of getting busy, we have a nice museum, right here at the sub base. I was talking with, this is Kevin Willy, the Director of Education at the Naval Submarine Force Museum. And can you tell us a little bit about the museum and the people that come through?
Thanks, yeah, I'd love to. So our museum is located right next to the submarine base, but it's not a part of the gated entry to the base. So it's open to the public. We are open year-round with the exception of 2 maintenance periods that we do in the spring and the fall. All of that information can be found on our website or our Facebook page. But yeah, we service as kind of a link between the greater public and the submarine force, and that's what I'm really excited to be doing there for the most part. I'm the Director of Education, so I get to interact with all the local schools, colleges, any type of youth group or even adult groups, and give them specialized lessons about the submarine force and what we do. And it's really cool to be a part of it because we get every type of person coming through, from some people who are visiting America from a foreign country to just people who live down the road to submarine veterans who just wanted to come to a place where they can kind of feel like they're at home. And that's one of the most exciting things too, because we see these older submarine veterans who served maybe in World War II, Vietnam, Korea, all of those wars that happened what seems like in the last century. They come through and they talk to us, all the new submariners that we have here that are currently active duty and stationed. We get to talk with them, and it creates this connection where we see that things haven't really changed that much. So if you want to get an idea of what the submarine force is like, I'd highly recommend you come to the Submarine Force Museum because it hasn't changed, and we're telling the story, and we have really just made it our complete commitment to honor those submarine veterans that went before us and show just how important and hardworking our submarine sailors are right now.
Well, the museum is divided up into different sections. I remember going there, Bridget and I are involved with the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce, and back in 2005, the Doolittle Raiders had their 65th reunion in Groton and Mystic. Groton Utilities had a big part of that. Suzette Tibbetts, who was the CEO over at Mystic Aquarium now, she was very much involved. Keith Nielsen, Frank Winkler. We had a lot of people involved with it, with the reunion. And part of it was going to the museum. And I have a picture in my office standing with General David Jones. We were saying that Davy Jones, I mean, that's a Navy name, but he was in the Army Air Corps, flying a bomber off of an aircraft carrier to go to Japan in '42. And but I have that picture with the blue ribbon with the white stars on it in the background. But there were a whole lot of different sections to the museum. Can you tell us a little about some of the different sections that were there?
Yeah, so our museum kind of tells a story through the ages. So we have from the first American submarine, Bushnell's Turtle, which was really just a elaborately built barrel that they used to try to sink British warships, all the way up to we have a cutout display of what will be our next submarine generation, the Columbia-class submarines. So we tell the whole story from beginning to right now, and even some of what's going to be in the future. So it's split up into two halves when you come in. If you take a right, you get to see everything from Revolutionary War all the way up to the completion of World War II. And then if you take a left, you get to see World War II to now. Within those, we have interactive exhibits. So kids can come in and they can play in our mock-up control room that actually came off of a submarine. So they can come in and push all the buttons and they can yell "dive, dive" all day long, and we get to hear it and we love it. To one of our newest exhibits, that's actually the maneuvering panels off the Twin Cities. So a Los Angeles class maneuvering area, which is where we control the reactor, that's there as well. You can go in, put your hands on it, and imagine starting up a reactor on a submarine. And then, of course, the star of the show, once you walk outside on our pier, we have the USS Nautilus, which is the first nuclear-powered submarine, and really what led our nation into having the most powerful naval force in the world.
Yeah, that's a great ship to take a tour on, great sub to take a tour on. I mentioned the Doolittle Raiders.
Well, in fact, we're getting ready to deliver a brand new submarine to our force in October, named for the father of our nuclear navy. The new Hyman Rickover is coming on in October.
Yeah, great. But I was just mentioning the Doolittle Raiders coming through. And that was in 2005, so you got to figure it's 63 years after they had, flown their mission. And these guys were 85, 87, 89 years old, and they were crawling all over the Nautilus. I mean, and for me, I thought it was, you got to step over this, you got to duck here, and it was my first time on the Nautilus, but they went right through it. And you were mentioning that that's a favorite of a lot of retirees to come and visit.
It is, yeah. It's almost like a challenge because it's not handicap accessible. The Nautilus is not.
Right.
The greater museum is, so all of our indoor and outdoor exhibits besides the Nautilus are handicap accessible. But the Nautilus is not. It has some steep staircases. It has steps that are greater than 18 inches high that you have to get over. But I will say almost every veteran that I see come through, no matter how frail they seem getting onto the boat, they will make it through that submarine. And we also have active duty personnel there. If something happens, we're going to be able to help them finish the tour. But yeah, it is somewhat of a challenge, especially because these guys come in and want to say, well, if these young guys can do it, I sure can do it too still.
Well, people walk right past the rings at the entrance. Isn't it the Holland, the Nautilus, and then a Trident submarine?
So not quite. You were close.
I'm close?
Yeah,
okay.
You were close. So right when you walk into the first entrance, you see the whole ring of the pressure hull of the Holland, and then the larger ring that goes around that is the pressure hull of the Ohio class. Just to give people a reference of size. Now, the Ohio classes are huge submarines. It's what I got to be stationed on prior to coming here. They're 4 floors high, and so that ring you see is the pressure hull, what we call our people tank of the submarine. So you can imagine even another 10 to 20 feet out from where that ring is the actual outer hull of the submarine to get a grasp of how big that ship is.
So the conditions on a submarine now are, while cramped, not quite Nautilus cramped.
Right. Yeah, they build the submarines first for machinery. So we want to fit as much machinery into as small of a package as we can. And then at the end, we say, we need people in there too. And then we squeeze them in where we can.
Well, of the Doolittle Raiders, there were 11 of the 17 that were still alive that were able to make the reunion. And 10 of the 11 were able to get on board. There was only one that wasn't able to, access the Nautilus. And all 10 of them were just thrilled. And another thing that happened was we were getting ready for them to show up. They had their little motorcade coming because they had stop after stop after stop for 3 days. And they were coming to the subbase, and there was a Boy Scout troop from Pennsylvania that was just coming out. And I went up to the scoutmaster and I said, "Can I ask a favor?" And he says, "Well, sure." And I said, "We have the Doolittle Raiders on their way here right now. Can you line up your scouts at the door and have them salute when they come in?" And it was really, really cool to see that. The kids they didn't know what was going on. They did the salute, but then afterwards, the scoutmasters and the assistant scoutmaster were so thrilled that they had a story to tell, the scouts on the way back to Pennsylvania, that you just witnessed guys that made history.
Right.
And it was, it was really a touching moment. So how does somebody get in touch with you to set up a tour, set up a class that you teach?
So there's multiple ways to do it. Number one, go to our website or Facebook page. We put up information about any upcoming events that we have, and we also have the contact information for anybody associated with the museum. We're a small company there, so we only have about 30 active duty sailors, and then we have about 10 civilian personnel, and then about 8 nonprofit personnel there. So we're split up between, we have our federal, our active duty Navy guys and federal employees, and then we have our nonprofit Librarian Museum Association employees. If you reach out to any of us, they're going to get your group in contact with me, and I'll schedule your tour. So we offer a couple of different kind of tours. So the first one we offer is you just walk in. There's going to be a docent at the front desk, and you can say hello to them, and you can ask that person anything you want. Almost every docent we have is a submarine veteran. Many of them have been on multiple submarines. Many of them are enlisted, and then we have a whole nother group that's officers. So we have a whole spectrum of people who've gotten to serve on submarines there who can answer any questions, sometimes better than the active duty guys can. I'm not very familiar with the diesel boats because I've only served on nuclear submarines, but we have docents that are very familiar.
Oh, wow.
And then we also have watchstanders, so active duty watchstanders that are both on top of the Nautilus and inside the museum. So you can go up to anybody in Navy uniform and ask them any questions you have. And that's kind of the, just show up and we'll give you the best we can offer. The next kind of tours that could happen is if you have a group of 10 to 20 people, if you reach out to us ahead of time, we can schedule that watchstander to focus only on your group while you're there, and they'll guide you through the entire museum, and they kind of give you their story. So you might get somebody who is a cook on a boat giving you a tour, and they're going to tell you what they know about cooking on the boat. And it's actually a great story because it's not easy to do, right? You also might get somebody who's an electronics technician who's worked only on like the protection systems for reactors, and you're going to get a very different conversation than you would with the cook. So it kind of gets to be a surprise. If you have a group that has a specific request saying, I want to talk to somebody specifically nuclear trained, or I want to talk to somebody specifically handling weapon systems for my group, because maybe it's, say you have like you're a nuclear power station and you're bringing a group of interns through, and you want them specifically to talk to nuclear trained personnel, you just have to reach out to us and we'll schedule that ahead of time. We also do larger events, so we host a lot of retirements, a lot of pinning ceremonies, change of command ceremonies. We have the facilities to host events at the museum, so all of this is free of charge. And then the last thing we offer are enrichment lessons. So we go to classrooms out in the community, or you can come have a field trip with us where we have a active duty sailor giving you a lesson on this pretty long list of curriculum that we offer. That ranges from humanities, so our history, where we just try to focus on like telling the story of all the adversity that our sailors have to overcome and how they deal with those hard times to do great things for our country, right? And then our STEM, our science, technology, engineering, and mathematics lessons are all based on really showing the practical uses of the science and math that the kids are using in school. They think, oh, I'll never need to use linear algebra out in the real world. But we bring them in and we show them exactly what it means to have an electron go through a magnetic field and have a force be applied to it based on a cross product. So we go all the way up to college calculus-based lessons and offer even story time for preschoolers. So.
I didn't know I was attending class when I came here.
Well, nukes have to be smart too. Well, our safety record under the Rickover Nuclear Navy is par excellence. It's you can't think of any incidents because there really have been none. They're that good. So of course they would be technical wizards. Really, the nukes are well known for being being probably the smartest part of the Navy. They have to do very highly technical things
I
reliably.
usually hear most ornery, but yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, sure.
An engineer got a
I have a nuke in
compliment.
my family. I have to, and several engineers. So
Now that's two of the three places that you have to send people. You also have the memorial.
Yes. So right down the road from us, we have a submarine force memorial that features the sail of the USS Flasher, which was a submarine during World War II, which was the #1 submarine in terms of sinking tonnage. So they sunk the most weight of German and Japanese ships. That sail just finished a renovation. So if you drive by Military Highway and you see the sail right now, there might still be guys working on it, but we just freshly renovated it, made sure it's not going to fall into the ground, painted everything, and it's going to be clean for the next foreseeable eternity.
Now, is that part of some kind of tour from the museum, or how do you get people up there? You just give them directions?
Yes, we'll give you directions if you ask for them, but it's not directly staffed by the museum at all times. So
No,
it's
it's an
actually
outside
it's a
thing,
public park
right.
for the town of Groton. So, or maybe it's the city there, but yeah, it's a public park for Groton, and yes, we're very proud that we got to actually preserve that sail.
Well, I think the location is great. You know, I used to work where I could access the base, go to MWR with the business that I was in, and then 9/11 rolled around.
right.
And you can't get on the base. But the museum and the Nautilus are just outside the main gate, you know, so, you know, anybody that's looking to, you know, visit the Nautilus or visit the museum, they've got access.
That's
know,
right.
Yes.
Although I should say, even though my library is on base and serves those with base access, we reach out over the fence line routinely to collaborate with our community partners. For example, I represent Subbase on the board of the Niantic Children's Museum, and we have brought them on to our library for programming purposes. The Denison Pequosipos Nature Center has brought programming. Any number of entities where there are content specialties that we think our families could benefit, we have brought those partners on to do programming. So it's really important for my library to be plugged into the community. There's a mutual relationship there. I routinely do a number of the events that Kevin described during the course of the year. Even though I'm encountering families who may never see my library, but that's immaterial because they need to know about us and they need to know more about the Navy that's serving to protect them. So it's all important. It's an important relationship we have with our community.
Well, both of those entities, the Nature Center and the Children's Museum,
Covered here.
they're in the book.
Right.
They're in the book.
And many more, sure.
You know, so I mean that's great. I mean, you've got so much experience, you know, coming from St. Michael's, going to Newport, going to, you know, the sub base here in Groton. I mean, I like the events. I remember the events before 9/11, especially the Beach
Right.
Boys, where you used to have those
Right.
concerts on the fields.
Subfest when it was open.
Oh, Subfest
Right.
was a big one, you know, but you know, unfortunately, you have to be okay
we have
before
to be
you can,
mindful
you know,
and careful now. It's a
know,
different world we're in.
you know, to get there. But do you have anything coming up? You mentioned the different groups that come through, but with school coming back, are there any events coming up that the library is part of, you know, for the children?
Well, not so much that, because once they go back to school, we get a quiet September usually
Oh, nice,
before we
nice.
kick into gear again.
Okay.
And I'm approaching retirement, so next week I'll be
Yes,
retired. So
yes,
the
you were saying
planning
that.
of the fall is really not in my basket anymore, right?
No, that must be something to be looking forward to.
It
But
is.
also,
It's bittersweet.
you know, I mean, there's people that you've been working with that, you know,
Absolutely.
it's probably nice that you're able to, say hello and goodbye all at once.
I've been trying to embed subtle shout outs to people I'm very grateful for who've helped make us a quality library, because really we're as good as what we can pull in and present to our families. Right, looking forward to that transition. Usually in September or October, we feature something for our homeschool families, because the homeschool lifestyle fits very nicely with a military family that moves with some frequency. So we try to especially cater to that group or that part of our community. There's a major conference coming up in September that's between the defense industry and the Navy. That takes place. And then in October, of course, as I mentioned, the big event is when EB hands over and delivers the Rickover to the Navy to make that a new part of our fleet.
Well, you, like so many other people that work at the local libraries, were pretty surprised when I told you that you were in the book. Because I'd go to the libraries and I'd walk into the desk and say, "Can you answer a question for me?" And they'd say, "Yes." I said, "Is reading recreation?" And they'd say what, So the
This
answer
is our
yes.
second book this year, which is wonderful. Our first book was with Tish Robb, the well-known children's author who brought out a book about the Mystic area, and Subbase was featured in a spread there. So we're really we're waiting for book 3.
Yeah, well, all the libraries were very, very happy to be included. And,
delighted.
And I understand that you have a little
Do.
closing a chapter and opening a new one.
I am. I'm getting out of the Navy in about 10 months to move on to hopefully graduate school, but we'll see what happens. But I also have events that are coming up in the near future. So the Saturday before Halloween, October 28th, this is 2023 right now, we're going to have our trunk or treat. That's our annual trunk or treat at the museum. So it's free and open to the public. It's also the only time that we open the Nautilus at nighttime. So what we get to do then is we get to darken some of the lights and we red out the boat. So when you're underway on a submarine, when you tour through the Nautilus, it seems like really bright and just like a work environment, because that's what it is. But when we're underway, especially any area where there's berthing, where people are sleeping,
Well,
the
how do they
lights
get in
are
touch
off.
with you?
If you want to get in touch with me, you can come to our Facebook page, which is the U.S. Navy Submarine Force Museum, or you can go to ussnautilus.org, which attaches you to our association page, and you contact them, and we'll be able to schedule any event that you ask for. And then, so our next big event, Trunk or Treat, October 28th.
Great.
Get to see the boat at nighttime.
Well, I appreciate both of you coming on for today's show. And for anybody out there that needs to know what's going on in the area, tune in. Nautical Tales and Nature Trails.